To the From Compliance to Competency webinar series presented by the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation. My name is Pam Wolf, and I am the Region 5 co-lead for the Regional Centers. I am also an Assistant Director at YAI. I would like to introduce you to two workforce champions who are presenting Competency T to you today. Matthew Gibney is a coordinator at YAI.
Hello.
And David Woods is the Program Manager of Staff Development at Mary Hayden Center for Hope.
Hello.
In the next 15 to 20 minutes, you will hear a scenario and view visuals that will help you to not only remember the skills associated with Competency T, but you will also see examples of how and when to utilize your skills to best demonstrate your competency. Today's competency is Competency T, which is to ensure the safety of individuals receiving support during environmental emergencies. This competency is important because ensuring individual safety becomes increasingly difficult during times of environmental emergencies. The skill associated with Competency T is to understand and know how to carry out plans when responding to environmental emergencies. By doing so, the DSP enables the person being supported to thrive before, during, and after the environmental emergencies.
We will go over how to utilize this skill more specifically. But let's start off with scenario one. After reviewing scenario one, we will look at two task approaches that could be used to address this scenario. Keep the skill needed in mind as you listen to each scenario. You are a DSP supporting 6 people, 3 men and 3 women, varying in ages and abilities. 2 of the individuals use words to communicate their basic wants and needs, while the other 4 use gestures and visual communication systems. Day shifts require a minimum of 2 staff members and 1 staff member on the overnight shift. 2 staff members, Justin and Janet, are on shift. While watching the weather report, they hear of a major hurricane is approaching the area. The most recent weather report states the hurricane will hit within the next 72 hours. It is predicted that the hurricane will cause significant damage and have lasting effects such as power outages, food shortages, difficulty acquiring medications, and other disruptions throughout the community. As a DSP, how should you respond?
Remember, according to Competency T, you want to respond in a way that demonstrates you understand and can carry out plans for responding to environmental emergencies. How can you do this? There are a number of specific things that you can do to demonstrate this competency. As we go over these, I want you to think of how you would apply this skill to the scenario where there is a major hurricane looming. To demonstrate the skill we just went over, a DSP must have knowledge of how and where to access basic emergency information. A DSP should also consider the effects of a hurricane before, during, and after this massive storm system. It is important to remember that although this may be a singular event, the way we prepare and handle the effects of the hurricane can impact the people we support for a significant amount of time, as well as their abilities. A DSP must understand the site-specific evacuation plans, have a list of emergency contacts, and personal protection plans. The DSP must also ensure any environmental modifications and person-specific safety equipment, such as bed shakers and magnetic releases, are fully functioning. This is particularly important when working with people who require more support, as they are often dependent on the DSP to have this knowledge, especially during a hurricane emergency.
In order to demonstrate the skills of Competency T during an emergency, the DSP must be able to confidently execute the evacuation should the situation require it. For people who require more support, this may include utilizing prompt sequences and applying proper use of tangible reinforcements, which can aid in physically supporting the individuals. These skills are learned and practiced throughout your participation in your agency's scheduled fire and emergency and escape trainings. OPWDD requires that all DSPs participate in regular scheduled fire drills and emergency procedure trainings. All of these skills required for Competency T are to be utilized before, during, and after an emergency event. Let's go back to the scenario. A major hurricane is approaching, and the expectation is that it will cause damage and power outages that will last many days. One way in which Justin can respond is to call the house supervisor, Brendan, and inform him of the hurricane update and confirm the emergency plan. As a DSP, there are many things that need to be considered, including whether appropriate amounts of food and medication are available for everyone in the house. After confirming the emergency plan with Brendan, Justin then works with John, Julie, Mary, and Sam, who have limited communication ability. By using their specific communication styles, Justin prepares John and Mary for the predicted hurricane. John and Mary use point boards to communicate. By using the point board, Justin points to the sign of the fire alarm. After Justin does this, both John and Mary point to the door. Justin then communicates with Sam and Julie, who need more support with communication about the potential hurricane that they are expecting. He takes Sam and Julie to the actual fire alarm and points at it. Then he asks, "What do we do when this lights up and makes noise?" Sam walks towards the door and Julie points to the door. Justin makes a note in the communication log that he's reviewed the fire alarm with John, Mary, Julie, and Sam, and they all responded in appropriate answers.
While Justin is communicating with the others about the hurricane, Janet reviews the fire alarm with Timmy and Tracy. Justin asks John to walk around the property with him to ensure all evacuation routes are cleared from debris and to check that the house vehicles are full of gas and safe to drive. Justin calls his supervisor, Brendan, again to inform him of what he and Janet have done and brace for the upcoming hurricane. We know there are different ways to prepare for our scenario of a hurricane emergency threat. We will now look at another approach that could be used in addition to approach 1. After Justin and Janet have communicated and prepped the individuals for the upcoming storm, Justin calls his supervisor, Brendan. This time when he speaks to Brendan, he discusses each person that lives in the residence's circle of support. Justin thinks it would be a good idea to contact the circle of support members who are outside of the immediate hurricane zone to see if anyone has an alternate place to stay during the hurricane. It turns out that Sam and Julie can relocate during the storm, but Julie's family does not have available transportation. Justin informs Julie's family that they can support Julie by providing the transportation to her family's house. Justin also suggests to Brendan to add additional staff to the next 3 nights to give added support to the remaining people. Brendan thinks this is a good suggestion and follows up with Justin's recommendation and contacts the staff scheduled to work over the next 3 days.
Brendan wants to ensure that the staff understands what is expected of them during the hurricane emergency. So he discusses the emergency plan, emphasizes that they must be on time for their shift. He even suggests they bring a change of clothing as well as have a full tank of gas in their personal vehicles. Within 24 hours, the storm did hit, but was significantly weaker than predicted. As it turns out, Justin and Janet had over-prepared, which is a desirable outcome in a situation like a hurricane. DSPs wound up having a hurricane party. They had dinner and served non-alcoholic drinks, like hurricanes, and watched everyone's favorite TV shows. Those are just a few examples of the ways we can demonstrate competency T. In doing this, a DSP would be showing that they understand and can execute specific emergency preparedness plans for the locations they work.
The proactive planning for this type of event, particularly when supporting people with greater needs, will lessen the possible negative impact of such a storm. Upon learning of the imminent hurricane, a DSP needs to respond by first checking the evacuation plan and all of the routes, safe areas, and sites around the building are clear of debris and that there is functioning safety equipment such as lights, bed shakers, and alarms prior to the arrival of the storm. They should also consider whether any tangible reinforcements are present. A DSP should also check that the transportation van is fully functioning and ready to use. Limiting crisis situations such as challenging behaviors, medical emergencies, psychological trauma, and preventable stress will ultimately both maintain and improve the quality of life for the people we support. By maintaining a high quality of life during emergency situations, you are exceeding in competency area T.
Emergency situations are important reminders that ensuring the safety of the people we support should be addressed on a daily basis in non-emergency situations. By doing so, DSPs will become increasingly comfortable with their responsibilities and more likely to respond in a competent manner during an actual emergency. Things to address on a daily basis include ensuring seatbelts are worn, that staff are driving safely and following road laws, that people we support know how to lock doors and how to interact with emergency personnel are all good things that should be reviewed often in a person-specific way and at residents' meetings. By doing so, DSPs will become increasingly comfortable with their responsibilities and more likely to respond in a competent manner during an actual emergency. When supporting a person with a disability, remember to meet them where they are at and consider the level of support needed to be successful. For example, in the case of a person living on their own, a DSP can guide the individual in making a go bag with essentials in case they need to leave where they live in a hurry. The DSP could work on a checklist with the person they support to ensure the go bag has essential items.
While specific actions may be different, what is most important is to remember to ensure the health and safety of the people we support. This understanding is what makes for a DSP that meets or exceeds in Competency Area T.
Attached, you will find an interactive activity that is a word search to become more familiar with emergency preparedness technology. So thank you for joining us for a Competency T webinar from the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation. You can review other webinars and find additional information on www.workforcetransformation.org. Thank you again.